Welcome to the 10th episode of Friends in Film, a podcast where we talk about the latest movie news and theatrical releases. I'm your host, Cooper Hood, at Coops_Hoops on Twitter. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Straley, at Straley Strong on Twitter. You can follow the podcast on Twitter as well, at Friends in Film. You can also subscribe to us on SoundCloud and iTunes at Friends and Film using the and sign. And on YouTube, we are also on there at Friends and Film, where you can listen to the podcast and see some pictures about what we're talking about. Josh, what's going on?
Well, happy 10th anniversary of the show.
Yeah, I made double digits.
Woohoo! Shout out to the haters.
I haven't seen any haters so far, which is nice. We appreciate it.
That's why they need to be recognized if they exist.
Yeah.
But also shout out to the fans. I mean, obviously, we've had some really great reactions on the last few podcasts.
Yeah, we're still getting a lot of hits on Deadpool, which is great. And then even on Twitter, we've been getting some good interaction recently. So yeah, just thank you for everybody who's, tuning into the show. Just be sure to, do all the things I just talked about. Follow us and subscribe, give us reviews and stuff. It just helps the podcast become more recognizable to, people searching for a podcast about movies and want to hear, for some reason, two regular, 20-year-old guys talk about them.
Yeah, listen to people with no street credibility so far.
Yeah. Well, if you are new to the show, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. And before we get to our review of Zootopia this week, me and Josh are going to talk about some of the biggest news stories that broke throughout the week. If you want to go straight to our review instead, just fast forward about half through the episode. On YouTube, there will be a little timestamp where you'll be able to just click a button and go straight to the review. But hopefully, you'll stick around as we discuss the following news. Our first piece of news came from the Oscars, were last Sunday. The whole Oscar so white thing was a huge part of Chris Rock's his speeches and his jokes and everything, but that wasn't really a surprise to me. But there were some big surprises. We ran a poll on Twitter, got 826 votes. This is incredible. I did not expect that. And the majority of you voted for that Leo winning his first Oscar was the most surprising moment of the Oscars. So, Josh, do you agree with that? What was some other surprising things or memorable things for you?
Well, speaking to the most surprising part, I think it was, that was the best part of the Oscars, was seeing Leo get his Oscar. I mean, it was the most satisfying for a lot of people. But I think the surprising part for me was Spotlight getting Best Picture. It was super good, but I really thought that The Revenant or The Martian would have ultimately beat it out in the end.
I was hoping The Martian would win Best Picture, but I didn't think it had a chance, really. I thought it would go to Revenant. That's what I picked on my ballot. I only got 10 out of the 24 categories correct, unfortunately. But I was surprised that, Spotlight won just because they didn't win. I mean, they won, I think, Best Original Screenplay. So that was, or it was Best Adapted, I think. But that was the only award that they won all throughout the whole night. So there was no momentum really for them, looking like they would do it. If anything, I thought Mad Max would do it just because they were killing it in every artistic award. They were winning, best costume design, best, I don't even know what else. But I think that they won the most awards of any movie that night. They won 6.
Yeah, sound editing, and just all the categories that you
editing,
don't ever think about.
I was very happy for Leo to win, but also for Brie Larson getting her first Oscar. She killed it in Room. But the most surprising thing to me, probably besides Spotlight winning, was Sylvester Stallone not winning Best Supporting for Creed.
I wasn't beside myself. I was more shocked. I didn't see Bridge of Spies, but I felt like I would have heard a whole lot more about Mark Rylance's performance in that prior to the Oscars.
I mean, I heard his performance was really good and stuff, and I think if I had to get somebody besides Stallone, he's good enough to do it. But I mean, I just thought Stallone coming back after all these years, doing Rocky and doing it in probably the best performance he's done as Rocky. I mean, he's been doing the Expendables movies and stuff, and see him go from that to this, it was like, holy cow, this guy should do more movies that aren't just like stupid action flicks. So I was hoping he'd do it just as kind of a recognition for the Rocky franchise and his role in Hollywood and how he's one of the most iconic cinematic roles in all time. So I was hoping he'd do that just for that sake.
Yeah, for sure. Like the passing of the torch to an entire new generation of filmmakers, sports heroes, action heroes, the whole works. But I guess, that was one of the more unexpected things to happen that you didn't really anticipate it.
Yeah.
I almost thought it was a lock for him.
Yeah, definitely. But we're going to move away from the Oscars and talk about some of the more popular news stories that broke throughout the week. And it was actually a lot. There were, when I was planning the show, we had a couple of news stories, and then Friday afternoon, they're just like the floodgates open, and we got a bunch more. But earlier, or I guess it was like last weekend, Fox revealed that Channing Tatum's Gambit movie would not be released in 2016, which is not a surprise, due to they just got their director like a month or two ago, and they hadn't even started filming, so that's not a surprise to me. But as they moved aside that one, they didn't set a new release date, but they did announce two more release dates for upcoming mystery titles. One to come out on October 6th of 2017, and one in January 12th of 2018. Some of the properties Fox we know is developing is Gambit, Deadpool 2, X-Force has been a rumor that they're trying to get that going. New Mutants has been in development for a while, and after Apocalypse they'll definitely do at least they'll keep doing X-Men, big team movies. So which ones do you think will take those two dates?
I think the two that are the most likely are Deadpool 2 and an X-Force character mashup. Because when you look at the dates, they're spread out enough to introduce the idea of, Deadpool and friends, and then you have time to build up to an entirely new franchise.
Yeah.
So those are where I think it's going. But of course, there's this whole other X-Men world that we don't know what's happening with past Apocalypse, so those are probably going to be, there's always the possibility that those take one of those slots.
Yeah, definitely. I would think that because Gambit was supposed to come out in October of this year.
Right.
So now that they have an October release date next year, I was thinking, okay, they're just giving Gambit extra time to trim down their budget, really, make sure that they nail the character like they did with Deadpool, because, Gambit's not somebody that people are clamoring to see in theaters. Channing Tatum is a big name and all, but, a Gambit movie, especially after X-Men Origins, kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. So I think they'll give that there, and then they would release Deadpool 2 basically 2 years after the first movie, and put that in the 2018 spot with, maybe an X-Force movie, later down the line. But I don't think one of the X-Men main movies, the follow-up to X-Men Apocalypse, is going to take either of those dates, just because Fox is going to want that in the big summer blockbuster months between April and the end of July, early August. So, January is kind of a dumping ground usually for movies, but there's been some big titles put there recently. And October is kind of that in-between period of, is it a blockbuster or is it an Oscar movie? So it's just kind of one of those weird spaces. I don't really know what they're going to put there, which is why I think Gambit makes the most sense.
Sure. On the subject of Gambit, though, was a plot synopsis ever released detailing anything about the story that they had in the works?
Not that I can recall. I know they had a really big budget. It was like $200 million. That's what they wanted for it. And then who is it? Leah Seydoux from Spectre, I think. She's rumored to be the female lead in the movie. But that's, besides having Doug Liman on as the director, that's really all we know. I know they wanted to go to a lot of different places to film, not just Louisiana. They wanted to go all across the world, which is probably why they had such a big budget.
So it sounds sort of like they were look like they're angling to do sort of a bank heist type of a deal. Casino
Maybe
robbery?
I don't really know what they were planning to do with it. I'm not really familiar with Deadpool as a character. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll know more about it in the coming months as, Wolverine 3 will start production. That comes out in beginning of 2017. So they're going to, and then I would assume in later 2018 is when the next X-Men team movie would come out. But we'll just have to wait and see when and how all that stuff plays out. We're going to move on to Star Wars.
Oh, yay.
One of our favorite topics. We talk about it almost all the time. And Daisy Ridley, while she was at the Oscars, was talking to MTV about the follow-up to Episode 7. And she said, quote, "It's such a good story. Seriously, Luke is so cool in this one," end quote. And then she also confirmed that this will pick up directly after The Force Awakens, meaning it'll be the first Star Wars film to start immediately after and not have some passage of time take place. So with that in mind, what will Luke's first words be?
I don't know what Luke's going to say, but I imagine it's going to be something like, "Who are you?" or "I already know Han's dead," or something like the look he gives that camera in the 10 seconds that he's in frame says so much. So it's going to be crazy.
I like right when I saw that it'll pick up, and I was kind of wondering, I was like, how are they going to start it? I was thinking Mark Hamill's first word should be it'll do the scroll or the crawl, sorry, and then it will, or however it opens up, and it'll show Luke, and it'll just kind of going on him, and then it'll be him, and it'll go, "And that's who your parents are," and then those move along, and then move along back. What?
Don't get
wait. He's already got the lightsaber in hand. It's like we just missed like 15 seconds in time. And he's like, and then he explained everything and leaves us wondering until later on in the movie when they reveal that, hopefully.
Oh man, that's a good way to get it going though. Where so I don't know if it'll pick up though. Like when I imagine the Star Wars opening crawl, it might be the Empire Strikes Back kind of way where we figure out what's going on with First Order, and then it flashes back to Luke.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I'm just glad that they're gonna show Luke and Rey's like first interactions basically, and not have some sort of jump in space where it's like the opening crawl and it's Luke and Rey have been training for 2 years. It's like,
right.
wait. Why don't we get to see any of that? So I'm glad they're gonna see that, and I'm glad that she's talking about how cool Luke is, because it means, unlike the last one where they're hiding him, he's out there, he's gonna be in it, and he's gonna be doing a whole bunch of crazy amazing stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like she was really excited to be working with Mark Hamill on the entire thing. So the chemistry is definitely going to be there, and if there's one thing in Star Wars Episode 7 that you couldn't take away from the actors, was everyone had amazing chemistry.
Yeah, the
riffs and plays off each other was phenomenal.
Yeah, and so, I mean, as long as the story is good, we're going to love it. But a rumor came out this week about the possible title, as a Reddit user posted a photo of what they claimed was, a handout that they got from, Disney and Lucasfilm and stuff. And the title that was on the card was Star Wars Tale of the Jedi Temple.
Bleh.
Yeah. I don't think this is real. If it was real, I think there are ways that it could make sense, but it would be the most boring title in all of Star Wars history. Really, it's like a Jedi Temple, unless it's filled with Jedi. But I mean, the Jedi Temples have been kind of pushed recently in like Star Wars Rebels, the TV show, and they've been really exploring that, and it could make sense. If that's kind of maybe where Luke is at, maybe that is the oldest or the last Jedi Temple or something. So there are ways where I could see it working in terms of the story, where, Episode 7 was called Force Awakens because Rey, we assume it's Rey, is the awakening that is happening in the Force. Whereas if, in episode 8, we're learning a lot about, the history of the Jedi and, the Sith and the Jedi temples and the construction of lightsabers and the powers and, training and everything, then this could make sense. But it definitely is not anything that I expected.
It's just a flat out dumb title. I've never heard any Star Wars film with this lame of title. Think about it. There's A New Hope, there's The Empire Strikes Back, and there's Return of the Jedi. Then you have the vagueness of The Force Awakens, and then they're gonna automatically jump to something super specific like Tale of the Jedi Temple. That's so specific that it just leaves out any other subpoint that's going to be in this film. And we know there's going to be a ton. So, yeah, I agree with you. There's going to be some exploration because clearly, is stated in episode 7, Luke went in search of the first temple.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a part of it, but there's no way that's the title. There's no way.
No, I don't think so either. But it's just, fun to kind of talk about it.
Sure.
And theorize, if that was the title, how would it play out and whatnot. So we thought we'd bring it up, and they are building sets currently, and filming's underway, so hopefully we learn more about it soon as we await a Rogue One trailer, which will probably be attached with Civil War. That's what I think. And an early reaction to Civil War came out this week, courtesy of Devin Fracci of Birth Movies Death, where he was able to talk to a couple of people that had seen the cut of Captain America Civil War that's basically finalized. There's just, special, there's visual effects stuff that needs to be done and whatnot, but Disney's happy with their cut. And just to summarize some of the things he talked about, he said it is fully a sequel to Winter Soldier, which is great, and it's not, Avengers 2.5. He said that Spider-Man is great and it doesn't waste time telling his origin story, also great. And that Black Panther is phenomenal and a great addition to the MCU. And that probably the thing that got me the most excited was he said that the last half hour is brutal, both physically and emotionally.
So it sounds like we're going to see some pain.
Oh yeah.
Within those characters. Dang.
Oh yeah. There's definitely people are dying, people are crying. It's gonna be. It's just gonna be so good. I can't wait. I mean everything. The more I hear about the movie, the more excited I get, and it's so hard to try to keep my expectations kind of low so that it can surpass those, and I don't build the movie up so high, which kind of happened for me with Age of Ultron, where I went into it thinking this is gonna be it's got to be better than Avengers, but that's kind of impossible because it's like my favorite movie of all time, and so it's like you see and you're like, oh, that was great, but it could have been a little better. So yeah, I'm just trying to, this is all great to hear.
It is, because the problem with the Age of Ultron was that Phase 2, Phase 3, before the lead up to Age of Ultron, those films were so good. You had Iron Man 3 and Winter Soldier, two really good story arcs and character developments for Iron Man and Captain America. Then you get Age of Ultron, and it's sort of like, oh, Tony Stark has this vision and he's paranoid, but that's nothing new. And to hear that this new Captain America Civil War is going to be, has emotional weight, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Just the ending for Winter Soldier is, it's not like an emotional movie, like you're gonna cry because of it, but there's definitely that emotional pull when Cap just lays down his shield and he says, I'm with you to the end of the line, pal. And it's like, oh gosh. Yeah. It's like, no. And then it's like in the trailers, when there was the very end of the first trailer, it's like, I wouldn't be doing this if he wasn't my friend. And then Tony's like, so was I. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be like crazy, and like apparently they play out like it's, with the last half hour being so brutal, they really play out and emphasize, just how different the sides are, but they really play it in a way where there's no right way. It's all for the audience. It's your personal preference, where they give you, even though it's Captain America movie and they give you the Cap side, they spend equal amount of time showing Iron Man side and showing, no, like, we need to do this, and then it will make you question, hopefully, what side you're on. I'm Team Cap all the way. So, oh man, the fact that it's 2 months, like 2 months from today that we are recording, I will be waiting in line to see it, is just the best thing in the world, basically.
Yeah, I think the Russo brothers have got a good movie for us.
Yeah. And one more movie that staying with comic book stuff, and Suicide Squad's coming out this year. We're both very much looking forward to it. I believe it was in our top 10, most anticipated for both of us. And apparently DC is also very, very happy with it, as there was a report that David Ayer and Will Smith are teaming up again for a sci-fi fantasy cop movie called Bright, with Joel Edgerton as the co-lead, and Max Landis is going to write it, and it just sounds really cool. So I'm waiting for that movie to come out. But in the midst of that, there was a small report that Ayer and Will Smith are hoping to do this movie quickly so that they have the opportunity and that they're ready to come back for Suicide Squad 2, which they are wanting to film next year. Which, it always it worries me a little bit that when studios greenlight sequels to movies that haven't come out yet, like Fantastic Four, but there's also examples like Guardians of the Galaxy, where they announced Guardians of the Galaxy 2 a couple of days before the theatrical release, and that movie was pretty freaking great. So, are you excited about this?
Well, like you said, you have to. There's some reservations to be had when they greenlight a movie before it's been released, because it's like, oh, is that too early? But then it's also like a vote of confidence. Well, if everyone on the money-making side of things thought this film was good enough to go ahead and greenlight a second one, that's also a good sign. So, from what I've seen in the Suicide Squad trailers, it's going to be good enough. It looks like it's going to be a good movie, and definitely good enough for me to come back for a second one.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just great that Will Smith's going to be back doing big action movies that are going to be what should be successful, especially financially. And there were rumors that he would possibly be in the Batman solo movie with Ben Affleck. So then, knowing that he could also be a Suicide Squad 2, I didn't really know if that would even happen, because I was kind of wondering if they would do Suicide Squad, show all these villains, and then split them off and have them be actual villains in the other DC movies. So seeing that they're actually gonna stick around, that means more Will Smith as Deadshot, more Harley Quinn played by Margot Robbie, more just everybody else that's involved with it. It's great. And David Ayer, I'm a big fan of, so having him back, as long as Suicide Squad is good, which I'm hoping it will be, then I'll be incredibly excited for this movie coming 2017.
Yeah, it seems like DC, the Warner Brothers DC universe expansion is, filling up the forthcoming years. So it's just going to be interesting to see how it all plays out with BVS and everything else falling in line behind it.
Yep. And then another movie comes out this year, got its first trailer, one that you're really looking forward to.
Yeah.
It was in your top 10, right? Do you remember where it was at?
It was number 7 or number 8, if I remember correctly.
Okay. You guys can go back and look, but we're talking about Ghostbusters. The reboot is what they were calling it, but then they released their first trailer, and it was kind of confusing if it was actually a reboot or a continuation or how it's playing out. But we gave us our first, real look at, Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones as the newest group of Ghostbusters. So did this get you excited for the Ghostbusters movie?
Oh, totally. A huge fan of the first one. And like you said, it was supposed to be a reboot, but now they're acknowledging the movie 30 years ago in the narration. So it'll be interesting to see. But whatever, yeah. Kate McKinnon, Melissa McCarthy are, I think, two of the most hilarious people on the planet. And obviously Kristen Wiig and Leslie Jones, so like, Saturday Night Live cast members all over the place. Just like there's nostalgia, but the newness of all of it. So I'm totally excited.
This trailer did not make me excited at all.
It didn't make you excited at all?
Not
Like,
at
did you think it was dumb?
I laughed twice, I think, at the whole trailer. And it was the part where the ghost spews the ectoplasm all over Kristen Wiig right at the beginning, and then the bit where Leslie Jones just slaps Melissa McCarthy.
Oh,
Even though I'm not a fan of Melissa McCarthy necessarily, seeing her get slapped was pretty funny. But that was it. That was the only thing that made me. Those were the only two things that made me laugh. I mean, I think Kate McKinnon. I watched it again. I think I watched it 3 times, and Kate McKinnon looks like she'll probably be my favorite character from it. But it's just weird because they're bringing back a lot of the original Ghostbusters to have cameos, and even like Sigourney Weaver's gonna have cameo in it and stuff. But they've always said that they're not playing the same characters, which lends us to believe that it is a reboot. But then at the beginning of the trailer they say 30 years ago, 4 scientists saved the city, and it's like, so this is set in the same universe, but they're same people are different characters. That's weird. So it's just that confusing aspect of it, and then the fact that it is a comedy that it's supposed to be a comedy, and I didn't laugh that much. It just didn't do anything for me.
Well, I mean, it was only 80 seconds of film, so I mean, you don't want to give away too many of the bits that people are going to laugh at in a trailer, especially when it's hybriding the action.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I definitely don't want them to give everything away, but I mean, you gotta give us something.
Well, it's the first trailer.
Yeah, and it's like I've seen, on the internet and stuff. There's been if you don't like the trailer, it means that you're like anti feminist, because it's like, for some reason, if you hate on this, it means you hate it because that it has 4 females, and that's not the case. If it was 4 dudes in this movie and they did the exact same stuff and the exact same jokes, I would still be coming out of this thinking, hey, it didn't make me laugh, which was the ultimate goal of this movie, is to make people laugh and have a good time. And as the trailer, I'm supposed to laugh and get excited for this movie and go see it whenever it comes out this year, and it didn't do that for me.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be in the top 3 Ghostbuster movies, that have ever been made.
I would agree.
I mean, you can't.
It's impossible not to.
And at the very worst, it's number 2 because Ghostbusters 2 was just plain awful.
Yeah, so that one's not good. But I mean, I'm not like that big of a fan of the original one. I enjoy it, but it's not like one of those timeless classics, I think, in the history of cinema, in my opinion. So I wasn't expecting to watch the trailer and just love it, but I was hoping that I would watch and be like, okay, this looks good. Like, even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 trailer came out, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty stupid, but also looks kind of fun.
Yeah.
And Ghostbusters trailer, I was kind of like, this doesn't interest me.
Well, it's still very early before it's released, so we'll get more, I'm sure.
And we'll review it when it comes out, and so who knows, in 4 months or whatever it comes, I don't even know when it comes out. But whenever it does, I could have a total change of heart and love it.
My feelings for this movie are a lot stronger than they are for Taken 3's, so that's always a plus, right?
Yeah, you should like a lot of movies more than Taken 3. Another project that was announced that I'm not excited for basically at all is the Venom spinoff movie that Sony's had a lot of trouble with their Spider-Man franchises and trying to make it a big thing. They did the trilogy with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire that were well received, and the third one, which is terrible. I don't know what they were really thinking. And then Mark Webb and Andrew Garfield did 2 more, and they're both kind of enjoyable, but they kind of went downhill a little bit as they went on.
Mm-hmm.
And after or before Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, Sony was planning a bunch of different movies, like a Sinister Six movie, a Young Aunt May movie, a Venom spinoff, and there were a bunch of other rumors of what they could be working on. But then Marvel got the rights back, kind of, to Spider-Man. And Spider-Man's going to be rebooted. Tom Holland's been cast. He's going to be in Civil War, and his solo movie comes out in next July, in July 2017. But so that makes us think that from here on out, every Sony Spider-Man movie will be part of the MCU, or will at least exist within it. But apparently that's not the case, as it was reported by The Hollywood Reporter that Sony is moving forward with a Venom spin-off movie that is being written by Dante Harper, with Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach coming back to produce it. Are you looking forward to a Venom spin-off movie, or hate it, or what?
I'm not opposed to it right off the bat. I definitely agree with you that Sony has had some huge trouble with, not huge trouble, but they haven't gotten the formula right for the Spider-Man films. Like you said, the first two with Tobey Maguire were fantastic. Before the third one destroyed the franchise for 6.5 years before they brought it back with Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Mark Webb.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know the exact timeline.
And then they got the more fun aspects of Spider-Man right in these new ones, and that made them more relatable and connectable until they. I don't know how to describe what they happened in the second one that made me feel just like it was awful, but
it was just so much universe building in a single movie.
Yeah.
Which is the same worry I have with Batman v Superman. Not to bring them into this discussion, but the main Spider-Man 2 just threw everything at you. Like, here's hints of Sinister Six. Here's hints of this villain. Here's Electra. Here's a hint of Green Goblin. Here's Oscorp. Here's this. Here's this. Here's this. Mary Jane was supposed to be a movie. It's like, whoa. Slow down. It's like, just give me a good Spider-Man movie. And then if I like it, and if you just plant a seed of one villain, then you can do a Sinister Six movie. Or then you could do a Venom movie or something. But as a huge fan of the MCU, this was always my worry when the deal broke, that Sony and Marvel would be, working together with the Spider-Man universe, was that Sony still has creative control and final say over the character. So they still have the right to do whatever they want with the character and all the characters they own. But I don't want them to ruin what Marvel's done in making a very successful connected universe that's, across plenty of platforms, and a Venom movie that's not set with the same universe as their next Spider-Man movie, as well as doing an animated Spider-Man feature. It's just a lot of different stuff that don't relate to each other. And, people that are really in tune with it and looking and, studying the news are going to be able to go, okay, well, this one's not part of this. The general audience and stuff will go see that movie thinking it's part of, the larger universe, be disappointed it's not. Or if it turns out to be good, which I hope it is. If this does actually happen, I want it to be good. But if it is, then I'm like, oh, kind of wish this was part of the MCU or the Spider-Man franchise and stuff.
You don't think that they'll be careful in the way that they create the Venom movie as to not step on the toes of MCU, so that if it does okay, they can put him into the MCU?
I don't trust Sony, so no.
Well, I feel like with that deal that they brokered with Marvel, they would think of all that, because it'd be dumb to not.
Yeah, I agree. It's dumb not to include it, which is why it makes me so worried that they're trying to do this. And there's arguments that maybe they have a really dark R-rated script for Venom that in the wake of Deadpool they think, okay, well this could work and we can make money off it, but Marvel doesn't want to make an R-rated movie within their universe, so if we want to make this, it can't be included. And I get that from a business standpoint, but I personally just don't want to see this movie.
Yeah, it is a little bit opportunistic if they're going to try to capitalize off of the brand building that Marvel's helping them do. Marvel and Disney are helping them do with Tommy Holland's his new Spider-Man franchise. So Uh, Venom's a great character, but I mean, if you're gonna do a spinoff, don't take him. Grab someone cooler like Carnage, or I don't know. There's plenty of other people that they could have done.
Yeah, I
within
think
the
like
Spider-Man
Venom
universe.
would be the most like requested spin-off character besides, I mean, like him and like a Venom and Carnage like movie where they go against each other or something would be like really cool. But yeah, I would rather see a version of Venom in 3 years that exist in the MCU Spidey universe, that comes after, two, solo Spider-Man movies where they establish Flash Thompson and they, show, glimpses of the symbiote and stuff, and then they bring it to the forefront, and then he becomes, a bigger character instead of them doing, okay, here's this character, he doesn't exist with the rest of these guys, but if he's successful, we want to make more of his movies and have his own Venom universe.
Yeah.
So I just don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's not in production yet.
No, I mean, the script is only being written. That's all. They don't have a director or cast or anything. So I mean, it could be a few years away. So I guess it's one of those things where if they nail a script for it, and the Sony and Marvel thing's working great, they're like, okay, we're gonna use this script, but we're just gonna wait, a couple more years, bring it in the MCU, and that would be great. But it's just the news that it's not going to be set in the MCU and that they want to, bring this forward worries me about everything.
Yeah. With all the speculation, I mean, with the movies that we keep seeing getting lined up for years and years to come, it's easy to get kind of tense about the direction that they're going to take everything.
Yeah. But another reboot, sequel, spinoff is happening with during the Sony leaks of last year. It was revealed that Sony was internally discussing combining the 21 and 22 Jump Street franchise with Men in Black and do a crossover, which right when I saw the news about that last year, I was like, gold. Like, you make that movie, I am there. And apparently that's taken a step forward, as Variety reported that James Boban is in talks to direct. Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill are going to come back as Janko and Schmidt, as well as also be producers on the movie, if it actually happens. But for the Men in Black agents, Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith will not be returning to the franchise, which means because they want to get younger, fresher faces as a way to reboot the franchise moving forward, so they can make more Men in Black movies without having to get non-action stars in there. So are you excited about this? Who do you want to be the new Men in Black? Go for it.
Oh man, okay, yeah. Well, obviously, Phil Lord and Chris Miller created like super endearing reboots of the 21 Jump Street franchise. So I mean, that's the reason Channing Tatum is Channing Tatum to me today. So to know that they're gonna take it to the next level with a crossover with them and Men in Black it's the next logical step. It'll be a perfect combination of their comedy with the movie that The Watchmen or The Night Watch, that Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn movie that was
End
awful.
of Watch.
Yeah. Or not End of Watch, but
The
Neighborhood Watch or whatever.
Whatever that one. Yeah.
It will be like a better version of that, only funny and like,
it'll be way better than that. It was terrible.
Much more. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah. I'm very excited for this. James Boban as the director kind of worries me a little bit because he's the one doing Alice Through the Looking Glass that comes out this year. And that doesn't look very good to me. But he did the latest Muppets movie of 2014, which I did not see, but apparently it's pretty good. So if who knows, he could be great in it. All I know is, having 22 Jump Street crossover with Men in Black is going to be great to see. Janko and Schmidt fighting like aliens.
Absolutely.
Is like that is the next evolution of the franchise, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, very quickly, because we're running very long on news.
Sure.
But Who would you cast as the new Agent K and Agent J if they do
here we
keep
go.
that?
Yeah. If they keep those guys around, I would get Tyler Williams, who's proven himself to be funny in Everybody Hates Chris, and he can handle dramatic roles like The Walking Dead.
Yep.
And then I would drag out Kevin Spacey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying that because I'm halfway through my House of Cards binge watch, but I think those two would do well.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I like that. Tyler Williams is somebody I'd like to see if they eventually get to like Miles Morales in the Spider-Man universe. See him do that I think would be cool.
Oh, that's the best idea I've heard today.
But for me, it's kind of an obvious choice right now, but Michael B. Jordan as Agent J. I mean, if you watch the first Men in Black and just watch Will Smith running around doing, just being athletic and, kind of a very cocky agent, I think Michael B. Jordan could kill it in that. And he hasn't really done a comedy role. I mean, he has comedic moments in like Creed and stuff, but he's been more of I guess he did, what's that movie? That Awkward Moment.
Oh yeah,
I didn't see it. It's with like Zac Efron and Miles Teller, but I want to see him get like a comedic action movie role. So I have him be Agent J, and then when I was trying to think of an Agent K, my first thought was Tom Hardy because he doesn't really do comedy. Really, but he kind of pulls off that. He'd pull off that angry like Tommy Lee Jones like mentor role, I think, really well. But then I was like, okay, but I want kind of more of a comedic action guy. And I was like Mark Wahlberg, outside of other guys. That was probably his last like really good movie. He was in Daddy's Home, which did actually really well at the box office, but he needs to get away from the Transformers franchise, and get back to his roots as a comedy action guy, and putting. Just because strictly the lineup that movie would have then, Channing Tatum, Jonah Hill, Michael B. Jordan, Mark Wahlberg, who would not go see that movie opening weekend? Even if it was, as long as it was funny, I would love it.
Or you do The Other Guys 22, 23 Jump Street crossover.
Yes.
That's
Bring Will Ferrell in.
That's the sequel.
Yes.
That's the sequel, Sony. Get on that.
Yes. I would. Oh. If there was a The Other Guys Men in Black crossover, seeing those guys, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg take on aliens would be that'd be so good. But I just don't want them to follow up bad comedy or follow up a great comedy with a terrible sequel that has become kind of habit in Hollywood. Very quickly, our very last piece of news before we get to our review, Zootopia, was one that is kind of surprising but also like great, as Rocky Balboa is going to be going to space possibly.
Ooh.
Not like how it sounds. I'm not saying Creed 2 is going to be Rocky going to space. But Sylvester Stallone, as mentioned earlier, he was nominated for an Oscar. He did not win, which he should have, but while he waits to know if he's in the sequel for Creed, we may know his next project he's working on, as he was spotted in Atlanta with a script in hand getting into a car that was meant for Chris Pratt, which led New York Daily News to report that he has a role in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but they said it's most likely just a cameo. If he is in this movie and it turns out to be true, what are you hoping from him? Maybe if you have a role for him, just or if this even excites you in the slightest.
It's Sylvester Stallone, so you dropping him in any movie is obviously a pretty sweet deal. I'm surprised if he's in the movie. I'd be surprised that, like you said, he's either got a cameo or maybe doing some pretty serious voice work.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Because I feel like they would have added him to the cast for whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's rumors that Ego the Living Planet is a character that will pop up in Guardians 2. So when that news came out, I wanted Al Pacino to be the voice of it because he's previously said he was a fan of the first Guardians, that he wanted to get involved. But when I saw that Stallone could possibly be in, I was like, Ego right away. Have him do some mocap, just have him be a planet with his face on it and do the voice. It'd be so good. Plus, it lends the opportunity for James Gunn to do a hilarious joke where Quill was abducted from Earth in '88, and in the first one he had the quick joke about Kevin Bacon and what is it, Footloose?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and his hips and stuff. So he obviously knows his pulp culture, and leaving Earth in '88 means he could have seen the first 4 Rocky movies.
Oh, totally.
So when they arrive, if Ego is in it and they arrive, and he's like, they could leave the opportunity for Quill to say, that voice is kind of familiar.
Yeah.
Like, have we met before? And just kind of be like a quick reference to Sylvester Stallone as the part and being Rocky. It'd just be so good. There's probably a way cleverer way to do that, which would be way more fun than I just made it sound.
Right.
But I just want it to happen.
Yeah, like you said, the '80s references with the music, and it's a perfect fit.
Yeah. And that is the end of our news segment. So we're going to move to our review of Zootopia, the latest movie by Disney. Their animated lineup, it's been great throughout the years. But we're going to start off. I'll read the synopsis for you guys real quickly. From the largest elephant to the smallest shrew, the city of Zootopia is a mammal metropolis where various animals live and thrive. When Judy Hopps, voiced by Jennifer Goodwin, becomes the first rabbit to join the police force, she quickly learns how tough it is to enforce the law. Determined to prove herself, Judy jumps at the opportunity to solve a mysterious case. Unfortunately, that means working with Nick Wilde, voiced by Jason Bateman, a wily fox who makes her job even harder. We saw this movie last night, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very fun movie, a fun adventure between Judy and Nick as they travel across Zootopia trying to solve this crime. It's really funny. I mean, besides Jason Bateman and Jennifer Goodwin, it also has Idris Elba. It has J.K. Simmons, Octavia Spencer. It just has a really good voice cast there. It's great. Just to see like J.K. Simmons play a lion, for instance. Yeah. I thought it was really funny. There's some great gags, and Easter eggs and jokes. But it's also way more than just like a Disney movie where it's like, hey, you can be whatever you want to be. It also talks about like racial stereotypes, like corrupt governments, and even kind of like touches on like the American dream, and if you can really like achieve anything you want to be, or if no matter what you want to be, if you're born in a certain place or into a certain class, you can't go anywhere past that. So it has a lot of like really, like heavy stuff to talk about in the movie, but it doesn't like make it overly like straightforward that's what they're talking about. It just makes it jokes where they talk about it in a way where kids will just think, oh, this poor fox got beat up or something, but in reality it's like, oh man, that's like really, really deep. So I would give it 4 I didn't think of a use beforehand.
The elephant pops, like the huge, like popsicles that the elephants were eating. No, maybe.
No.
That's not covered.
Shoot. Let's see what else is really big in the movie. Carrots.
Junior deputy badges.
Sure, let's do that.
Those are clever.
4 junior deputy badges out of 5.
Yeah, as you talked about, like the things that you could take away from the movie. As we were coming out of the theater, because I saw it with you, I was like, I almost feel like I'm reading too much into these movies, because like I pulled away, a lot of the social commentary that you felt was in it, and I was like, am I overreaching here, or did they actually plan this? But that's like the great thing about Disney movies is that they're made for a particular audience, but as you watch it, you can totally see other things that apply to today. So that's cool. But like you said, Jason, like the acting and everything was great. Jason Bateman was stand out to me. I knew he could act well, but I never loved any of his roles until he played the Fox, and I thought that was just fantastic. It's like, to summarize it all up, it's just another lovable Disney world they get to toss you into. The same way with like Lilo and Stitch, like the whole Hawaii's filled with aliens and you gotta go find them type of a deal. Like, this world is full of like these really clever systems that incorporate all these different kinds of like animal life. And I just thought that was like super cool. And then like the most hilarious part, like, you know, like with the animals all wearing clothes, and then when they encounter some with not, they're like, oh, whoa, this is just crazy. What's going on here? But yeah, it's definitely another fantastic film for Disney. I agree.
Your rating?
My rating,
out of 5 deputy chief police badges?
I would go with 4 too. 4? It wasn't blow me away good. But as I sat through and watched all of it, I was like, oh, this makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to go live there as a rabbit, and, you know, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. It's definitely like Inside Out, like, blew me away. Just like, it was just so like good emotionally and in terms of story. And like Zootopia is still like just as it's almost as creative as Inside Out, but it also Zootopia has, you know, stuff to base it on, kind of, where, you know, animals are animals. Like, they look the same, but, you know, kind of the common characteristics that they put in each animal is kind of cool. And just seeing how they all interacted. But I think the thing that stopped it from it being like a great movie, like a amazing movie, was like in the third act, it becomes kind of predictable. Like, you kind of know, okay, well, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. So like nothing really like surprised me at that point, which was kind of disappointing. But I mean, just in terms of like the overall story and the themes that it played with, I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was super cool to see. One of the little cleverest things I thought that they had going were Jennifer Goodwin's character. Forgot her name. The bunny.
Judy Hopps.
Judy Hopps, thank you. Her cell phone, look, it's shaped just like an iPhone, but anytime she sets it down, instead of seeing an Apple logo on the back, you see a reflective carrot.
Yeah.
I just thought, like, that's so inane, but I love it at the same time.
Yeah, there were a lot of like really great like branding, like jokes, like puns, I guess, like similar to the iCarrot or whatever that you'd call it in Zootopia, in that world. Instead of like AT&T, it was PB&J.
Yeah.
As like the cell carrier. And then they like, the one was like, instead of like Foot Locker, it was like a Hoof Locker.
Yeah.
And then Targoat was another one.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm looking for like so I'll probably buy this on DVD when it comes out.
Totally.
So like going back and watching, apparently like every single sign has a different pun on it. So, you know, just going back and find those other Easter eggs. And like at one point they approach a weasel and he's selling DVDs, and they're all the previous Disney movies.
Yes.
In different like different punny names. I can't remember like any of them right now, unfortunately.
Rhino Ralph, for a spinoff of like Wreck-It Ralph. There was a teaser for Frozen 2.
Yeah, but I can't remember what it was called. It was titled,
I can't remember either.
Something else.
But yeah, it's just the Disney is so good at that. Creating just the smallest of Easter eggs, and also, you know, to the biggest ones as well.
Yeah.
Like the obvious.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of like our favorite moments and jokes and stuff, as well as kind of dive a little bit into more of the story. So this could be considered spoilers for the movie, just in terms of jokes and kind of how the story plays out. So if you haven't seen the movie, I suggest you go do it. Skip forward a little bit. We got a fan question answer, then we'll give you the outro. But from here on out, spoilers about Zootopia. Some of my favorite jokes and gags. The one came out. I think it was like the second teaser, like the sloth bit at the DMV. Even though like the first time I saw it, I died laughing because I thought it was just so great. But seeing it play out in the movie was still funny, which is a testament to just how good it is. As well as the ending where he's the one in the car, which I was hoping, like right when they talked about a speedster, I was hoping it would be Toretto from the Fast and Furious. It'd be Vin Diesel voicing a tortoise.
That's what
named
I thought
like
too.
Toretto or like Tortetto or something, and it's like, oh, like that'd be such a great opportunity. Just like to have like a fun little Easter eggs. They had a bunch of other like good Easter eggs and like kind of references to pop culture. It was when they were when Judy and Nick are investigating the like it's basically like a meth lab.
Oh yeah.
For the plot, and I was like, man, that guy looks just like Walter from Breaking Bad. And then it's a goat, and he's on the phone, and he's like, hey, tell Walter and Jesse to get back here soon with my cappuccinos or whatever. And I was like, oh, so good. They made that connection between to Breaking Bad, and then having Mr. Big be a mouse and have him just basically they tell the first part of Godfather with that mouse, and kind of, oh, you can't do this on my wedding, it's my wedding day, and it's like, oh, okay, baby. And it's just like, it's so funny that in a movie like Zootopia there's a Godfather reference and Breaking Bad and stuff. What about you? Some of your favorite jokes or moments overall?
Man, you definitely stole my top my most favorite was with Walter Breaking Bad, Walter Jesse reference, because the whole thing is there's a drug that's making all the animals go crazy, and when they finally locate the area, a guy comes out in a hazmat suit, and then when he starts talking on the phone, he's all about getting his lattes from Walter and Jesse. So those are that was definitely my favorite. But I guess my second or third would be when they visit basically the nudist colony there, or whatever the case may be. They show up to a spa, and everyone there's all natural. And as they get in there, Jennifer Goodwin's character, who's
Judy.
Judy, thank you. I don't know why I keep forgetting that. She is just completely like beside herself as like all these animals just walking around like normal animals don't have pants on, and she's just freaking out about it. And then eventually it gets up to the point where this basically stoner wildebeest is trying to get information from an elephant who he says remembers everything, like elephants do, I guess. And it turns out the elephant doesn't remember anything, but the wildebeest dude totally remembered everything, and their entire trip throughout the spa was pointless.
Yeah.
So I laughed pretty hard at that point too. But those are definitely my top two moments for sure. Yeah. It was a play to the older audience, and I loved it. Yeah,
definitely. You talked about it a little bit about the animals going savage, and as that being like the main point of the whole story. It was just so interesting to watch, because especially once like they reveal that the assistant mayor is the one that's behind this whole thing, and that she wrongfully made it look like it was the mayor lion guy voiced by J.K. Simmons, like that, like how that relationship played out. But it was also just weird listening to her talk about why she should overthrow him because he was a minority, and how she thought she like deserved basically the right, and how if she became mayor and that she instituted this, and she kept on making predators savages, that the majority would like band together and get rid of the minority altogether, which is like a terrible thing to do. It's just so weird that they did that. And I mean, they talk about bullying, and kind of how both of the characters, like both Judy and Nick, had a defining moment as a child where they were bullied. But for Judy, she used it as a sense of motivation and to still do the right thing, whereas Nick was bullied and took that as a sense of, I don't want to get hurt ever again, so I'm going to shut down, and since I can't be a Boy Scout like I want to be, why should I try? I should be what society wants me to be. And that's a really like heavy subject, because like that means if like you're born into a drug run family, you should just keep like distributing drugs, doing drugs. Like if you're born into wealth, you just keep doing the family business. Like it's depressing.
Yeah, like the sociological like undertone, I guess I would say, or like in that was like, oh holy crap, like people, what's it called? A symbolic interactionism. May be a term that you can apply to it, but like you see how you're portrayed everywhere else, so you act like it. Yeah. So like you said with Nick, he gets told that no one's ever going to trust him because he's a fox and he's a predator. So he just goes out and plays out what people told him he was, which was a sly fox. So he starts hustling people throughout Zootopia, and I'm just like, it's crazy because it's like they obviously intended that. Oh, yeah. They had to have, but then again, it's like, oh man, this is a PG movie, and kids are coming to see this and they're getting something like that, so it's pretty cool.
They're definitely not getting like the really deep stuff, I think, but like the simple concept of like bullying, I think kids would understand. Like, okay, don't bully kids because they could become like introverted or something like that. Or the main theme of the whole movie is follow your dreams, which is kind of the theme of like every kids movie. Sure. Basically, be who you want to be, and try as hard as you can to achieve those goals. But like right when Judy gets on like the job for the first day, she gets like super depressed about like, I can't make a difference. It's like no matter what I do, like sure I might have broken through, but like as she was a minority, basically being the first rabbit to be a police officer, the Idris Elba's character just wanted nothing to do with her. She's like, parking duty.
Right.
You just go do that, give people tickets, and then she's like, I'll be the best parking attendant in the history of Zootopia. I'll give out 200 tickets before noon.
Yeah.
But then, like, yeah, it's just crazy. Like, it's kind of the stuff that they play with.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it just tells you the depth of thought that everyone in that writing room has. That and their creativeness to work all of that into a really good story.
Yeah,
for sure. And I know this is jumping back to the lighter side of things, but the Idris Elba's wildebeest character, the police chief, is sitting in his office with an app that allows him to dance with
Gazelle.
With Gazelle, the
voiced by Shakira.
Right, the Zootopian pop princess. And she's just like, wow, you're dancing great. Those are some hot moves and stuff like that. And that was definitely one of my top 5 moments too.
Yeah, especially because then the what's his character? What's his name? Or something Claw.
Yes.
It's basically just a fat cheetah or leopard. I think. Yes. I don't know which one it is. But it's shown previously that he has the app and he's kind of showing it off to people. Yeah. And then he walks it on him, also using the app. He's like, oh. It's like, you use it too? And he's like, get out. He's like, I'm working on this case. The cheetah secretary guy was, really, really funny. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of one of those people that, similar to when the mayor was arrested and they kind of started taking savages away.
Yeah, getting the predators out.
It was really weird watching it and seeing him being taken away from his job, but I guess the wildebeest, Idris Elba's character isn't necessarily a predator, but he's definitely like, if he went savage, like he would, really hurt people.
Totally.
So seeing like the fact that like since predators were minorities, seeing them being stripped of, their place in jobs to be put in a lower position in favor of the majority is also like definitely talks about this kind of stuff that happens in today's world. And, it's like in America or wherever where, minority, where jobs still go to majorities. And as a white guy, I mean, sure, that might be good for me, but it's definitely not good for society.
Yeah, like the exact reason he's getting moved to the boiler room, the bottom basement, is that it's maybe not a good idea, to have a predator make people uncomfortable here.
Yeah.
It's like, and it was so sad too because you fall in love with this guy, really early on, and it's upsetting when you see it in the film, and then when you think about it in terms outside of it in the real world application, it can definitely make you upset.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes this movie like so good, is just because while it is meant for kids, it plays with larger themes that everybody can relate to, and it makes it a more powerful film than if it was just kind of a paint by the numbers kids movie, which is why like movies like this, like Wreck-It Ralph, kind of has a similar message. Inside Out, like those movies will like be remembered because of like the messages they say, not just because they were a fun kids movie.
Totally.
But do you have any other thoughts on Zootopia?
Other thoughts on Zootopia? I mean, I'll probably say this in the future after I see Finding Nemo, but ever since John Lasseter and that whole Pixar team merged with Disney, and there's just been a huge infusion of quality Disney stories coming out, whether from Pixar, whether from Disney Animation, and Zootopia is definitely one of those.
Yep, I would definitely agree. And I think that's going to be the end of our Zootopia review. We're already over the hour mark for the podcast, so before we leave, we got another fan question. We appreciate it. This one was not as weird as last week's, and talking about who we found more attractive. This one is from Wes Davidson at @WesWesWes_ on Twitter, and he asked us, who are each of you guys' least favorite Star Wars character, excluding Jar Jar Binks, which was a great little inclusion there, because it definitely would have been Jar Jar.
Absolutely, that's a good predictor. Oh man.
So answer Wes's question, least favorite Star Wars character.
Okay, mine's pretty easy because this guy is just a complete moron. In episode 4, his name is Porkins, and
great name.
He's a part of I want to say Red Squadron or Yellow Squadron, and they're attacking the Death Star, and he's about ready to make his pass on the exposed thermal port, and everyone's telling him to abort, get out of there, and he's just like, nope, stay on target, stay on target, stay on target. And then eventually he fires at it, misses, and as he's pulling up, he gets blown to smithereens, and it's just like, dude, how many times do they gotta tell you? Yeah. But I mean, props to him for being determined, but it was one of the most annoying parts.
He was a terrible pilot.
Absolutely.
Kind of makes you question how much training he had to go through to get in that position.
Yeah, seriously.
For me, mine is Cy Snoodles, which I didn't even know the name of this character before.
I still don't know who he is.
She is the how do I say this? The hideous dancing and singing alien girl in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
She's responsible for singing the song Lopty Neck, or be part of it. She's the main singer in it, and it's just one of the worst parts of that movie is, these randomly, I mean, I understand they're trying to replicate the cantina and stuff, but just like, bam, like here's this like really weird, terrible like song, and instead of it just being like a background like music, it's no, we're gonna focus on this character and her song for 2.5 minutes. It's like, can I get back to Han and Luke and Leia and people I actually care about? No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you listen to this terrible song. And it just totally takes me out of the movie every time I watch it.
Yeah, it's like we know you're here for Star Wars, but we have a 1.5-minute alien concert for you to watch.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that's exactly why I bought Star Wars. I'm just gonna watch that scene over and over.
Yeah, and then you mentioned earlier that, like you said, like it gets worse as the editions
Yep.
of the films come out.
Yeah, because now she's just CGI, and her, like, go watch Return of the Jedi and you'll know who I'm talking about. But during the song, her mouth is like on this, like, it's this really thin, like basically like a like an anteater type, and it just goes really far out, and it's really skinny, and then it's just like, it's supposed to look like it's like 3D, I think, in the movie. And like watching it like home, just like, obviously it's supposed to be 3D. I get it. Still terrible. Please get her lips out of my face.
Didn't you learn any kind of tolerance from Zootopia, Cooper?
Sure, I learned not to bully people or something, but I mean, come on. Didn't tell me anything about listening to singing aliens and watching them do terrible, weird dancing with hardly any clothing. It's like, come on.
Sure.
Get this out of here.
I'll agree with that. That is definitely an annoying part in episode 6.
Yes. And that is the end of this episode of Friends and Film. We're 10 episodes in, and we're just beginning. So,
heck yeah.
During our time away, be sure to tell your thoughts on everything we covered by tweeting us at Friends and Film, where you will receive updates on the podcast, movie news, and more. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Coops_hoops.
And you can follow me, Josh, at Straley Strong on Twitter.
Yeah, and if you do that, I'm on spring break currently, so I will be tweeting probably a lot about movies. I'm going to try to get through House of Cards over spring break. I've only watched the premiere so far. So you will see my thoughts on everything and, just my life in general, movie news. I retweet our Friends of Film account a lot because you guys don't follow it. So please do if you're listening to this. It would be great just to give us more of a following. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, SoundCloud, or iTunes, please subscribe, like, share, give us a thumbs up. And especially if you're on iTunes, it'd be very helpful if you gave us a review of any nature just to basically help our podcast climb the charts a little bit and become more one of the first things you see when you search for us would be us instead of something else. So that would be very helpful. Just give us a review, especially if you do so, you could be eligible in a few weeks to win a special secret prize about one of the movies we talked about early in this episode. And we've talked about a lot on the podcast. So go do that. And then when you do, take a picture of your review and tweet it to us at Friends and Film. And we will enter you into the contest where you'll win a special prize in the beginning of April, roughly. Still finalizing dates on it. But anyways, enough plugs about us. Thank you for tuning in again to the Friends of Film podcast. Josh?
Hey, have a good week, everyone.
And as always, be sure to watch some new movies before we return next week with a review of 10 Cloverfield Lane.